Hi everybody, this is Shahriyar Shahid and you're watching All of Your Business. In All of Your Business, we talk about the latest economic developments happening across the globe. For example, the fuel prices. Let's talk about the uncertainty regarding fuel prices and the Middle East crisis with our guest, Mr. Mitab Haider. Assalamu alaikum, sir. How are you, sir? Sir, my first question to you is regarding the very obvious, the fuel prices. In the last episode, we talked about, actually, you predicted that the prices of the fuel in Pakistan may remain the same or they might decrease, but they increased in a very shocking development. So, sir, what is your take on it and what has caused the increase?
Bismillahirrahmanirrahim. Thank you very much for having me. Actually, we have predicted that the prices will either remain stable or it might decrease. But it didn't happen and the prices increased. The reason is very obvious. The government preferred to increase the petroleum development levy. And in accordance with the agreement signed with the International Monetary Fund, that the petroleum levy on both petrol and diesel will be charged equivalent to rupees 160 per liter collectively. Right. So the government increased the petroleum levy on petrol close to almost 127, 128 rupees, and around 42 rupees were imposed on the HSD, high speed diesel. So cumulatively, the petroleum levy was jacked up to rupees 160 in accordance with the agreement with the IMF. And on that day, IMF was also scheduled to meet in Washington for approving the fourth tranche under the Extended Fund Facility Program. So, in order to comply with this condition, the government jacked up the petroleum levy, and that caused increase in the petroleum prices. So, it was the major reason that resulted into increase the fuel prices at the retail stage up to rupees 415 almost per liter for both diesel as well as for the petrol.
Right. Sir, what do you think? How long it's going to continue, the fuel price increase?
Actually, it's very hard to predict anything because the situation is very fluid and the prices are fluctuating on daily basis. At the moment when we are talking, we have seen that the Brent and crude prices are over $100 per barrel. So it's very hard to predict until and unless the overall situation recedes and the tension recedes at the Gulf region. Until and unless it doesn't happen, it's very hard to predict that how long we are going to see or witness higher fuel prices in international market as well as in Pakistan.
Right. So recently, the Donald Trump, U.S. President Donald Trump, has rejected Iran's proposal. So, do you think that the fuel prices are now going to jacked up again?
Of course, because when there will be increased uncertainty, it will result into higher prices. And we have seen in the past the pattern that whenever there is a possibility of any truce between the two sides, the prices decreased. And whenever there is uncertainty, we have seen that the prices have escalated. So this pattern is going to persist, unfortunately. And after rejection of Iranians' proposals, now this uncertainty is going to persist. And there's another thing which we should be analyzed, that if today the both sides were able to strike any truce or consensus and the war ends on permanent basis, the fuel infrastructure which was severely hit, it will take some time to restore and normalize the thing. So until and unless the prices will remain fluctuating and it will remain on the higher side. That's why we have seen that the international financial institutions, especially the IMF, had projected the higher increase in the overall CPI based inflation for Pakistan in the next financial year.
Right. So, given the fact the Middle East crises are escalating and they are not coming to an end point, the government has decided to extend the austerity measures till June 30. So, does that mean that smart lockdown we are going to see it till one more month?
Of course, because without austerity measures, I think there will be increased demand of both fuel as well as on electricity as well as on the gas side. So that's why the government decided to keep it for next 1 month period almost, in order to ensure austerity, because we have seen that the government has already reduced its overall development budget at the federal level, and the provinces also contributed in this austerity drive and the fund, in order to provide targeted subsidy to two wheelers, especially two wheelers and three wheelers. Although its execution at the retail stage is still problematic, but now the provinces are more focusing to ensure the provision of the subsidy for the two wheelers and for the public transport as well as for the small farmers. So I think this is the step in the right direction, because if we are going to open up everything, it will result into increasing the demand of the fuel as well as the electricity and of course the gas, and we cannot afford right at the moment for increasing the consumption of the fuel in any manner.
Right. So let's talk about the IMF's latest development. IMF has predicted the higher inflation and slower GDP growth for Pakistan. So is it because of the Middle East crisis, or is it because of the high inflationary pressures? That again is, of course, due to the rising fuel prices, and which tracks down to the Middle East crisis. So what are your thoughts about it?
IMF has approved the completion of third review and release of fourth tranche under the extended fund facility program, and as well as they have approved the climate finance of around $220 million. So in totality, Pakistan is going to receive $1.3 billion from the IMF within this week. And in this review, the IMF has projected that the next year the GDP growth will remain hovering around 3.5%. But for the current financial year, Pakistan has predicted and projected that its growth is going to touch 4.2%. In keeping in view the performance of the large scale manufacturing in the first 9 months period and agriculture sector in the first 2 quarters, Pakistani authorities are indicating that Pakistan's growth rate is going to touch 4% of GDP
Right.
for the current financial year. And before the upcoming budget, the provisional growth number will be released by the government of Pakistan. So it is hoped that it will remain hovering around 4%. But for the next financial year, IMF has projected that Pakistan's growth rate will be reduced to 3.5%, mainly because of the Gulf region, because persistence of any medium to long term crisis will have devastating effect on the overall economic activities, especially in case of Pakistan. And they have also revised upward the CPI based inflation, and they have projected that it will remain hovering around to 8.4% for the next financial year. It means that CPI based inflation is going to enter into the double digit in the next financial year, for the next couple of months period in the first half of the next financial year. And that is not a good news for Pakistan, because it shows that inflation will go up and GDP growth will recede. It means that Pakistan will be witnessing and experiencing stagflation. Stagflation will result into increased difficulties for the common citizens of Pakistan because there will be less opportunities for the job creation and poverty is going to increase. We have seen such a scenario in the past, but it's hope that this Gulf crisis ends at the earliest so that we don't go into another phase of stagflation.
Right. So, having said that, on the contrary, actually, in fact, gold has fallen below 4.9 lakh rupees. So, this is again a very in the series of fluctuation of the prices of the gold we have been witnessing recently.
Actually, at some point of time, it had crossed to 0.5 million per tola in Pakistan. But now we have seen that its prices are decreasing quite some time in last couple of weeks period. I think it will remain fluctuating. On one side, we have seen that the prices of fuel have gone up, and on some day it's decreasing, but again it's rising.
Right.
So the gold and the precious metals will also remain fluctuating until and unless there is a certainty at the global level.
Right.
Although we have seen that its prices have decreased in Pakistan, but it's very hard to predict that what's going to happen by the next week. So it will remain fluctuating, and its demand will remain there,
Right.
as we have already stated several times that its usage and its a tradition in Pakistan that
It's
on
not going to
every
change.
it's not going to change very soon.
The prices, do you think or do you see the prices are going to go like very down in the near future?
I don't think so. The prices will go very down. I think it will remain fluctuating and the range bandwidth will remain the same.
Right.
So we have seen that although it decreased, but after some time we will see that it might escalate further in the coming weeks.
Right. So let's talk about a very good news, not a very potential good news, I should say. The budget of the coming year, the fiscal year 26 to 27, may include income tax relief amid salary pension freeze. So, can you tell us more about it?
Actually, there are different proposals under consideration, and one of the proposals is to ensure relief for the salaried class and the fixed income groups. Actually, it is the desire and wish list of the government of Pakistan as well as the people of Pakistan that they want reduction in the tax rates for the salaried class because we have seen that salaried class have contributed much in the last 2 to 3 years period. Salaried class and the formal sector have contributed and they have been fleeced in the past. So it is the desire of the government to witness some kind of reduction in the tax slabs, but it's very hard to predict anything because IMF team is due in Pakistan. If they secured the security clearance, they will be visiting Pakistan or they are going to hold virtual talks to finalize the next budget. Government of Pakistan wishes to ensure some kind of reduction for the salaried class, but then we will have to reduce the expenditures. So if that can be a proposal that if there will be no increase in salaries and pension for the public sector employees, then the IMF will see that how much is the impact of reduction in the overall salary slabs. But it will only be finalized with the consent of the IMF. There are different proposals, but let's see what happens in the next couple of weeks because in the first week of June, the next budget is going to be unveiled in the parliament.
Right. Thank you so much, sir.
Always welcome.
That was all for today. If you want us to talk more about the upcoming budget, or if you want us to talk more about the fuel prices, do let us know in the comments. Till then, keep watching All of Your Business. This is Shariar signing out.